Welcome back, my dear. In the first part of our story, we followed Elira, the girl who could hear the wind, as she uncovered forgotten truths, faced an ancient curse, and began to walk the path that destiny laid before her. We left her under the twilight skies of Ravenmoor, hand in hand with Rowan, with the weight of prophecy gently settling on her shoulders. Tonight, we return to the moors. The mist still clings to the hills, the forest hums with hidden magic, and the wind, oh, the wind, still carries secrets meant only for her. So find your quiet space, let your breath slow, and allow my voice to guide you once more. This is the continuing legend of the Lady of Ravenmoor. The promise of the wind. As the seasons turned, the moor flourished under Elira's gentle care. The trees grew taller, their leaves shimmering with renewed life, and the waters of the fens ran clear and bright. The wind, once a messenger of warning, now sang lullabies that wrapped the village in comfort and peace. Elira often stood beneath the ancient willow, feeling the breeze brush her skin like a tender touch, a reminder of the bond she shared with the unseen world. Rowan and Elira's connection deepened, quiet moments filled with shared glances and soft smiles, a love that blossomed like the wildflowers in spring. One evening, beneath a sky awash with stars, Elira whispered her promise to the wind. I will protect this land. I will honor the past and nurture the future. The legacy of Ravenmoor will live on, in love and light. The wind answered with a gentle sigh, carrying her words across the moor, weaving them into their endless song of the earth. And so, the Lady of Ravenmoor stood as guardian and friend, her story a beacon for those who listen. To the wind's soft whisper, a legend born of magic, sacrifice, and hope. Whispers in the twilight. As twilight fell over Ravenmoor, the village settled into peaceful quiet, the kind that speaks of safety and home. Elira walked the familiar paths beneath the silver glow of the moon, her steps light and sure. The wind curled around her like a soft cloak, carrying faint whispers from the distant past, stories of love and loss, of promises kept and broken, woven into the fabric of the land. Though the curse was lifted, the forest's mysteries remained, gentle reminders that magic never truly fades, only changes shape. Rowan met her at the edge of the moor, his smile warm beneath the fading light. Together, they watched the stars emerge, silent witnesses to their journey. Elira, he said softly, the story of the Lady of Ravenmoor will live on, not just in legend, but in every breath of wind and every bloom on the moor. She nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep in her heart. And as the night wrapped the world in its velvet embrace, Elira knew that whatever came, she would face it with courage, love, and the endless song of the wind. The song of the moor. The moor stretched endless beneath the pale dawn, dew-kissed and shimmering like a sea of glass. Elira wandered through the tall grasses, her fingers brushing the wildflowers that swayed to the rhythm of the breeze. The wind carried a melody, soft and ancient, a song that seemed to rise from the very heart of their earth. It was a song of beginnings and endings, of time folded like petals in bloom. Elira closed her eyes and let the music fill her soul, feeling the pulse of the land in her veins. The pendant at her throat glowed faintly, a steady beacon in the quiet morning light. In that moment, she understood. She was not just a guardian, but a part of something greater, a living thread woven into the endless tapestry of Ravenmoor. With Rowan's hand in hers, she stepped forward, ready to walk the path ahead, wherever it might lead. The moor sang around them, a lullaby for the ages, and the wind whispered, forevermore. Echoes of the past, Underneath the heavy boughs of the ancient forest, Elira found herself drawn to a place she had never visited, a circle of stones, weathered and moss-covered, silent witnesses to forgotten rites. The air was thick with history, every breath she took laced with echoes of those who had walked before her. The wind whispered stories of love and loss, of sacrifices made in shadow and light. She placed her hand on the cool stone, feeling a pulse beneath the surface, a heartbeat that matched her own. In the distance, Rowan approached, carrying a small bundle of herbs and wildflowers. "These stones hold the memories of the land," he said softly. "They remember the pact, the promise, the pain, and they await the dawn of a new chapter." Elira nodded, a quiet strength settling in her bones. Together, they knelt among the stones, weaving their hopes into the ancient earth, binding past and present with gentle hands. And as the wind sighed through the trees, it carried a single word on its breath: remember. The veil between worlds. Night fell softly over Ravenmoor, wrapping the village in a velvet cloak woven from stars and shadow. Elira stood at the edge of the forest, where the veil between worlds thinned and the air shimmered with unseen magic. The pendant glowed softly beneath her cloak, a pale crescent moon casting light in the dark. The wind stirred, carrying voices from beyond, the laughter of children long gone, the mournful song of the forest queen, and the whispered hopes of the earth itself. Elira closed her eyes and stepped forward, crossing the threshold into a world where time folded and realities blurred. Shapes moved just beyond sight, shadowy figures and shimmering lights, guardians of the balance between life and death, dream and waking. She felt their gaze, curious and cautious. A soft voice echoed in her mind, gentle and ancient. "You walk between worlds, child of the wind. The choice you make will shape the fate of all." Elira's breath caught. In that moment, the boundary faded, and she understood that her journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. The heart of the moor. Elira moved slowly through the shifting twilight of the forest's otherworldly edge, where shadows danced with silver light, and every step echoed with the pulse of the ancient earth. The pendant glowed brighter, casting a soft halo that pushed back the darkness, guiding her toward a place untouched by time. Ahead, a circle of standing stones rose like silent sentinels, their surfaces etched with runes that hummed with power. As Elira approached, the wind swirled around her, carrying the scent of moss and wildflowers, of rain and forgotten dreams. A voice, both distant and near, whispered her name, tender, filled with longing. Elira. The forest queen appeared once more, her form radiant and sorrowful, her eyes shimmering with untold stories. "You have come to the heart," she said. "Here, the fate of Ravenmoor will be decided. The bond you carry can heal or destroy." Elira's heart trembled, but she stood firm. "I will choose the path of light," she vowed. "For the village, the forest, and the wind." The queen smiled, a bittersweet curve of lips. "Then let the final chapter begin." The final reckoning. The moon hung low over Ravenmoor, a pale guardian watching as the village and forest held their breath. Elira stood at the heart of the stone circle, the pendant glowing fiercely against her chest, her hands steady despite the storm within. The air thickened with ancient power, whispers of the past weaving with the present, the forest queen's spirit circling like a protective veil. From the shadows emerged twisted shapes, remnants of the curse, dark roots writhing like serpents, hungry for release. Elira raised her voice, chanting the old words Rowan had taught her, her tone both fierce and tender. The wind answered, rising into a gale that scattered leaves and light, weaving around her like a cloak. With a final surge, she reached into the earth, calling on every fragment of strength, love, and sacrifice she carried. The roots recoiled, screams fading into silence as light spilled from the pendant, washing over the moor, the village, the trees. When the glow dimmed, only peace remained. Elira collapsed to her knees, breath trembling but free. The curse was broken. The Lady of Ravenmoor had triumphed. The quiet aftermath. The first light of dawn spilled softly across Ravenmoor, painting the moor in hues of rose and gold. Elira rose slowly from the stone circle, the pendant warm and gentle against her heart. The village stirred awake, free from the heavy shadow that had lingered for so long. Birdsong filled the air, mingling with the fresh scent of earth and blooming flowers. Elira walked among her people, no longer the mysterious girl touched by the wind, but their guardian. And their hope. Rowan stood close by, his smile quiet but full of promise. The curse had lifted, but the bond between land and spirit remained, a delicate balance to cherish and protect. And as the breeze whispered softly through the trees, Elira knew that while one chapter had closed, a new story was beginning. New beginnings. With the curse lifted, life in Ravenmoor began to bloom anew. Fields once barren whispered with green, and the moor's mist no longer held its chill but wrapped the land in a tender embrace. Elira moved through the village with a quiet grace, her presence a balm to those who had known only fear and shadow. Children laughed freely, chasing light through the tall grasses, while elders shared stories beneath the ancient oaks. Rowan's hand found hers often, their bond a steady flame against the ever-changing tides of fate. Together, they nurtured the fragile peace, honoring the old ways even as the village embraced the new. At night, the wind sang lullabies that echoed softly through open windows, a reminder that magic lived, not only in legends but in every breath of the earth. Elira smiled beneath the stars, knowing that her journey was far from over, but now it was one of hope, love, and endless possibility. Guardians of the light. Seasons wove their quiet tapestry over Ravenmoor, each day a thread of sun and rain, shadow and light. Elira and Rowan stood at the heart of this woven world, steadfast and gentle. The villagers came to see her not as a figure of mystery, but as a guardian of balance, a living bridge between the human and the wild. The forest thrived, its ancient magic humming in harmony with the land and its people. Elira listened, always to the wind's song, guiding her with its timeless wisdom. In quiet moments, she and Rowan would sit beneath the old willow, hands entwined, hearts steady. Their love grew like the forest itself, rooted deep, reaching toward the sky. And as the stars will overhead, the Lady of Ravenmoor knew her story was no longer one of fear or curse, but of hope renewed, forever carried on the wings of the wind. The legacy of the wind. Years passed softly like petals falling on the moor. Elira's hair took on the gentle sheen of twilight, her eyes still bright with the spark of the wind's ancient song. The village flourished beneath her care, a place where stories were told beneath starlit skies, where magic lived in the laughter of children and the rustle of leaves. Elira and Rowan nurtured a legacy, not only of protection but of harmony. They taught the next generations to listen, to the wind, the earth, and the quiet wisdom that flows through all living things. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Elira stood beneath the willow, the crescent pendant warm against her heart. The wind stirred around her, carrying a new melody, soft, promising, and endless. She closed her eyes and whispered back the eternal song. Beneath the vast, endless sky, Ravenmoor thrived, its moors alive with whispered legends and the soft rustling of the wind. Elira stood on a gentle hill, looking out over the land she had sworn to protect. The crescent pendant gleamed faintly in the fading light, a symbol of the bond between her, the forest, and the village. Beside her, Rowan's hand found hers, steady and warm. Together, they listened to the eternal song carried on the breeze, the voices of the past, present, and future intertwined. The Lady of Ravenmoor smiled, her heart full. Though her journey had been marked by shadow and sacrifice, it was love and hope that had woven the true magic. And as the wind whispered through the trees, she knew that the story, like the moor itself, would live forever, carried gently on the wings of time. The whispers end. The sun set softly beyond the rolling moor, painting the sky in shades of amber and lavender. The air was still, carrying only the faintest breath of wind, a whisper that lingered like a secret shared between old friends. Elira stood beneath the ancient willow, the crescent pendant resting warm against her heart. Around her, the forest and village lay peaceful, bound together by threads of magic, sacrifice, and love. She closed her eyes and listened, to the wind, to the earth, to the quiet song that had guided her from the very beginning. A gentle smile curved her lips. The journey was complete, yet forever unfolding. For in the land of Ravenmoor, where shadows had once threatened to consume all, light now blossomed eternal. And the Lady of Ravenmoor, guardian of balance and bearer of the wind's sacred voice, would watch over it always, her story whispered softly on every breeze. The end, and yet, always just the beginning. And so, the story comes to rest, like the wind settling over the moor at twilight. Elira's journey has come full circle, from whispered omens to quiet strength, from shadow to light. But legends never truly end, they simply rest, waiting for the heart to remember. Thank you for joining me on this path beneath the stars. I hope this tale brought you peace, stillness, and maybe a little magic. Now, allow yourself to drift deeper. Let the music guide you beyond words, beyond thought, into the soft embrace of sleep. Until we meet again in another story. Good night, my dear. Sweet dreams.